you think that's just you, and you'd be like, oh wow, it's like you're having the same problems or this and that. But sometimes they piss me off too. But like, oh, we're working on the house. I'm like, how do you have a house in Bushwick? Like how did you afford that at the same time? But
You're like,
tangent.
I digress. I digress.
Hate you.
Welcome to New Mommy at 40, a honest, informative, and non-judgmental podcast for those navigating to and through parenthood in their 40s. And I'm your host, Victoria Lauture Duncker, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Before we get into it, I need you to do something for me. Press that follow, subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching this so you don't miss a single episode. And follow us at New Mommy at 40. That's New Mommy and the number 40 wherever you do your social media. Thank you very much in advance and enjoy this episode. Hit it. It didn't happen in my 20s. Who cares? Now I've got all this fancy wisdom to share. Hey, I've got this baby. You're getting the best of me, 'cause I'm a new mommy at 40.
Welcome to the first episode of New Mommy at 40. I'm so excited to introduce to you our guest today. She is someone I've admired for a long time. I know she's like laughing at me. Man, if you watch this video, you'll see someone laughing at me, but that's okay. I admire her, and I don't think I've ever told her this before. It's because besides being refreshingly honest, she's probably one of the most authentic people that I know. So I really appreciate her being with us today. Her name is Tanji Garcia, and you like that? I rolled the R just for you.
And then I did this.
And then you flipped your hair right on cue. Tanji Garcia. Hi, Tanji.
Hi. I'm so excited that you're doing this.
Me too. You're one of the first people I even thought of when I thought about having a podcast, as you know, because I wanted you to do it with me. So maybe we'll have like a audience vote later on where they're like, bring Tanji back. Bring Tanji back. I'm going to start a whole campaign. But I know they're going to love you by the end of this episode. But we've known each other a long time now.
Yes. I can't say when, but I know it's studio, since I lived in my studio.
Right. Because Tanji and I worked together at an airline. She's still presently there. I'm no longer working there, but it's been at least, I think, over 13 years or so.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, around that time. So I know a lot about you in terms of as a friend, but I have to admit that there are things I don't know in terms of like your family life. Like I know you were raised in California, right?
Yes, I was. But I've been in New York now since 2008, so long enough to lose all my patience. Long enough to walk faster than everyone else.
Yeah. New York will do that to people.
I like it though. I like it.
You still have a very West Coast relaxed vibe though.
Oh, until I get mad. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Or tell us or get into a story.
Right.
Yeah. Save it. I save it for that.
You do. But that's appropriate. That's good. One of the things I wanted to ask you in terms of family life, like, were you in a family that was, your parents were together for a long time and still married, or was it a two-parent like, household or separate?
No, I'm on stepdad number 4.
So. Oh, okay.
But stepdad number 4 has been around since I was 15, I think. So sorry to him for the 15-year-old, well, for the whole high school me.
Oh, that's hard. That's hard for anyone coming into a relationship and trying to get to know a kid at that age too.
And cultural difference.
And
super cultural difference.
Where is he from?
Iran. So he's Persian. So he just came to this 15-year-old Black and Filipino person's life.
Right.
And I was not having any of it. But No, he's
But you're
good.
good now.
Yeah.
Shout out to
I'm an
stepdad number
adult.
4.
Yeah.
You're an adult now. Shout out to stepdad number 4.
Yeah.
But how did that family life, how did that dynamic, because they've been together the longest, how did that influence you in terms of what you were looking for, in terms of a partner, or how you felt about marriage, kids, or anything like that?
No. It just was, I want to say, somewhat, well, dating wise, maybe, because it's for, a while, it's like you're like a serial monogamous, and
Hmm.
it's just like I wasn't with people like that long until like, my adult years. Um, but you don't really notice that something is influencing you until like way after the fact. Like
Yeah.
you don't, like I didn't have that, oh, I want someone, like my dad and stuff, because that too, I didn't talk to my actual dad from, I think, the time I was about 6 or 7 until until my
What, your
30s.
wedding?
My
Oh,
30s.
you're 30.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think my 33rd birthday I found him. But so you just like what you like.
Right. Yeah, because for me, I had the pressure, I think, of I grew up in a two-parent household, and they knew each other back
Yeah.
in Haiti. My parents are from Haiti. They knew each other as kids, and they were
Oh,
married up until my mom passed in May, like 47 years. So in the time that I started to date, because I wasn't allowed to date in the house under their,
smart.
their supervision, which I actually wished I had, because I think I could have gone to them for more advice.
Yes,
Like, is this normal? Is this what I should be hearing from my boyfriend? Is this
right.
okay? Because I had this pressure of having that relationship,
Yeah.
the one that would last forever. So when I would get into a relationship with someone that wasn't, I didn't know if they were great for me or not. If we had like little issues, I just said, "Oh, well, you're supposed to work through these and get married and at 24 and have the kids soon after." So I had this picture in my head that it probably should happen around that time.
Yeah.
For you, you didn't really have that type of
You know what? It's funny.
pressure.
It's funny that you say that, because for you, this is what I say, you don't know until after. So for
Hmm.
you to think like, oh, you have these problems and you're supposed to work through them. Whereas
Hmm.
I would be like, we have these problems, I gotta go. So I didn't, and I said, this lovely, wonderful marriage. I went upstairs. This wonderful marriage. This is my second. The first one was like that, and when I look, I was married when I was 20, and we were kids and stuff, and he was a great, great, great guy, and that we actually probably have the foundations for like a great relationship, like long lasting marriage. But it was dumb stuff that we didn't know. Like, this is not an issue, but you're
Right.
making it an issue. But there wasn't that watching somebody work through a problem and stick with it, like no matter how
Hmm.
bad it is. So it's funny that you say that, because that makes a big difference. So that is something that now, as more of an adult, that you just kind of have to take it upon yourself, like not that's what you learn, but that's what you want. Like, this is the person you want. And if you don't want them to leave, or you just want to keep the family, like everything cohesive, you have to work through it. So
Yeah.
I've learned more things on my own than I have like within my family.
Yeah. The reason I asked the family question is I think when we're dealing, or the stigma, because this season of New Mommy at 40 is exploring um, how we got here in terms of having kids in this stage of life, and how sometimes the disappointment that we feel is based on a picture that we had of what should be and what could have happened prior to our 40s.
Right.
So some people don't have the pressure of
Yeah.
that because they never even thought about it. It's just like, look, I've been having a bomb life
Right.
and I didn't have time for kids, and I do now. So I'm going to have them versus, oh, wow, like here comes the 20s. I should have a kid now. Oh, that
It's
ship
the
sailed.
other child.
It's
Sorry.
entertaining. No, it's okay. She has a beautiful dog that just kind of came into the frame for this. Um, you know what I mean? So I think sometimes that shapes our expectations
Right.
of motherhood or relationships and how we navigate where we are as older parents sometimes, or when you're deciding on having kids later, or how that influences you, the expectation you have of when that would happen. Um, so you went from kind of navigating on your own how to get through this marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and then
It
it was gone. It was done.
navigated away.
Bye. Navigated away.
Recalculating. Yeah,
So now
but
you're living single. You're just living.
yeah,
How was that?
wild.
What was?
That was the family show. No, that was it was it still was hard because it was the same thing. Like I just I didn't have it in me or like the skills,
Right.
to work through problems. And then from a lot of things that like happened from when I was very, very young, like, you carry like the trauma with you. And then for so long, I was just very just hostile, just like you couldn't
Hmm.
tell me anything. And like within the relationship or without the relationship. So yeah, that just the waves got rough. But with time, it's just, like again, it's really like late 20s and early 30s is when you just really start to figure out like who you are and,
Hmm.
what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And
That's key.
yeah,
Acceptable, and that's the thing.
and
It's like
also,
that does
yeah,
come over time,
because
right?
you have no consequence. We think there's just no consequences for anything that you do. You just don't see them, or you don't
Right.
really tap, and you don't have, I guess, well, for me, I didn't have, the like just the interpersonal communication part to just kind of empathize with other people, like what it is that, sorry, I talk a lot, so these things pop out.
It's okay.
What, like how your actions affect others. Like you don't, well, I just learned that later. Like I probably, like if I said something or did something or flipped a table
Right.
or cut somebody, like how, how,
Oops. What are the consequences to these
right?
actions?
And you find out when you wake up in a jumpsuit,
Right.
oh, it's a 2-inch cut, you know. So
It was just a
yeah,
2 inch.
like, I don't know these other two's names. Peanut butter with
Man
no
up.
sugar. Yeah, so you learn things the hard way, which it'd be
Yeah.
nice to not have that. And also through any time I like my significant others, their parents, I tended to date people whose parents had been together forever, like first marriage, several kids. And then you just kind of see that. Then, like, same thing, like my family is very small. Like, I have a half brother and a half sister, but they're my brother and sister. But they came way later, like, way later. Like, I'm 14 years older than my brother and 21 years older than my sister. So, really, like, holidays and stuff like that I would spend with the other person. But then you would get that family feel, like having a big family and just how fun it was, just like all the dynamics of personalities. So that probably it was something that I later was like, I want that, like that warmth, you know.
So do you think that prepared you a little bit? I mean, not for everything, but in terms of being maternal in any way, like in
Um,
terms of the age, because that's a big gap between you and your siblings. Did
well,
that at all?
no, I always was like, what, you know what? You know how you don't realize like how old your parents are until you're that age, and then you're like, oh my God, I was that age. Like she's
Right.
this age when she had her. Not at all, because my mom is real little, and Asian. So you can't, there's no real marker for how old you were. But
Right.
it just, I always thought I was going to have kids before 30, just because
Right.
that's what you do. And then when you're young, you always imagine people over 30 are already in wheelchairs. You're like, oh, they're so old, and you're like,
But
no.
you know what shapes that too? I've been watching all these TV shows with my daughter, and not all, but like these cartoons, and then the way that kids talk about a person who's 40, even how they're depicted is like, do I look like that?
I was,
Why does she look so old? It's like, so it doesn't even match how I see myself
yes,
sometimes.
not at all.
You,
Until the kid tells you that, until you're mammed, and then you're like,
yeah, you're
dang it,
ma'am for the first time.
or you have to
But
mark that box that's like
yeah,
not
oh,
you
because
can,
it's like
or you can no longer be on the real world because you've aged out. You know, so you're like, oh, got it.
dream deferred.
Oh man,
Well,
yes,
no,
things
I
like
I
that.
get what you're saying because my mom had me at 24, so that I remember hitting 24 and going, oh
Yeah,
no, I don't think that's anywhere in sight. And I was
right.
and I was with someone for a long time because that was an 11-year relationship I was in from the time that I was, I think,
Oh my God.
19. Yeah, at 19. I married that person at 27. And for all that time, we could
Wow,
have probably had a kid, but we didn't. I was really focused on getting done with school. And there was a 9-year difference too in our ages. So he really wanted me to focus on my career and all that stuff
that's
too. He was
good.
really great about that. And then when we actually thought, oh, we could probably start having a family now, everything else about our relationship was just going down the
Yeah,
drain in a way. And great guy. We're friendly now, but at the time it just wasn't the right time. And
yeah,
then
I
I was
get
in
it.
another relationship for well, no, for 8 years where that wasn't really an option either. So I remember though hitting those milestones, those markers, and going, "Wow, this is going to happen later, if at all."
Yeah,
Right? So now you are now married to the amazing Billy, who I've always liked from day one that I met him. But you guys
so
kind of
did
had like
I.
I don't know, you had a part two. I think it's like
We
you met,
did.
you had a relationship, and there was a sequel,
There was a
right?
sequel, an unexpected sequel. Yes, there was.
So how did you guys meet?
We met we met at St. Patty's. It was after the parade, and there was a lot of alcohol influence, but it was just he's a fireman. So
Hmm.
we met, and it was just like a bunch of firemen. This is gonna annoy me. A hold please. A bunch of firemen, a bunch of flight attendants that day, and it just was like everybody just matched, and it was such a good day. From the time I met him, um, we had been we had been talking probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon until like 2 o'clock the next day. And so
Oh wow,
yeah, no, but he just was awesome. It was just like he like the energy. It was like me, just like the
full on.
just the funny, just the extrovert, just he's really tall, and then he just was like, I want to say like check all the boxes, but when you first meet someone, you think they check all the boxes because you don't really know who they are. But he
Right.
was pretty, what I thought was genuine most of the time, and just a fun guy. So he pretty much, I was like, I loved him then, but it was like, off on, off on. He's old. At the time he was also in the Navy. So the year we met, he went away for a year. He went to
Oh
war
wow.
for a year. We just stopped talking, and I was thinking like, okay, I guess we're done. And then I started dating someone else after that, and I remember like Valentine's Day that next year, he like sent me something and whatnot, and I was like, oh damn, do I have two boyfriends? It's just like so confusing. I'm like, dude, I haven't heard from you in so long. How you just acting like we're
Why'd you just
together?
pop up from
Right.
nowhere?
I remember one time he had his friend email me like Billy's still thinking about you and this. I was like, so he could tell you, but he couldn't tell me. Then when he came back on me, we weren't together, and then there was just like off on, and then at that point So I met him when I was 32. So already there's, your
The time.
biological clock is going,
Yeah,
because I was good
right.
with not having kids. And then legit just one day was like, bam, like I want kids. But he was great, like perfect, but it just wasn't going anywhere. I don't want to say stagnant, but that it feels, it just was here. And then,
Plateaued.
yeah, and I just kind of was like, are we gonna get married, or do you want to have kids? He already had a daughter. When I met her, she was 6. So the year I met him, she was 6. So he obviously wasn't in like a rush, and
Right.
it wasn't like his relationship with the mom is not nothing. She was a side piece. But oh, she's gonna love that if she hears this. So so he was in no rush. It meant nothing to him. Whereas me, I mean, as a woman, like you only have a short window. Well, especially if you start in your 30s, but your window shuts. Like at a
Yeah.
certain age, and it's kind of like unfair to put that on someone else. But I've known like this is the guy. Um, but just off and on, off and on. And at some point, I was just, like, you are the person I want to do this with. But if you're not in it, like for that, it's like I can't just sit around. I can't,
Right.
because I'll end up resenting you for this. So we broke up for a while, and like he had another relationship, and I had another relationship. We both lived with people, and then at some point, he sent me a text message. And maybe I talked to him like 3 times in that time, and most of it
Hmm.
was about business, some kind of, some transactional um event. And then he hit me up and was like, I want to ask you something, or I want to talk to you about something. And I was thinking, oh, he's gonna ask me for like a pass for a flight or
Yeah,
something,
if
like, and he's
anyone
gonna,
knows, the
yeah,
worst thing you can do is ask a flight attendant for buddy passes. Just FYI, if anyone's
yeah,
listening.
unless like we're related or we have a something, don't just hit
Right,
me
we
up
have
out of
some.
the blue. So I figured that's what it was. And he's like, no, no, it's not that. I just want to talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, okay. But for 3 days, I was like, and it better not be it was me, not you, kind of thing, or some pity. I go, I don't want to hear it. And like for 3 days, he's like, it's not that. And then I refused to see him face to face, because I just know, I would be like, "Ugh." So, because he's really handsome. But so
You didn't want to be broken
I
down
did
before
not,
he.
don't, I didn't. But I was like, just send me an email, whatever it is, because you're not good with words, which
Right.
he'll say like the wrong thing, and it'll just snowball into something worse. I made him send me an email. Whoops. And then so it was, he's like, okay, and then I was like, just send it. Like you can edit it. He
Right.
sent me, like, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was on my way to work, and he sent me like the longest, I'm kidding,
Oh,
the longest email. And it was just like, what and again, like I said, he's not good with words. Started out with what he's been up to. He just got in a relationship right after us and was living with her, and she was
you're like, get to the
young.
part where I'm
Right.
the love of your life.
It was just not even that. I was like, asking for the damn pass.
Right.
I was just, what is it? So all of this stuff, and I was really going like, why are you telling me any of this? Like, this is supposed to make me, I don't know. But then at the end, like later, he was like, I'm only telling you this because it's, I've been thinking about family, and when I'm at the firehouse and everyone's talking about their wives and their kids, he's like, I want that. And he's like, but I realized, he's like, I want that with you. And I was just like, I was just reading it like words, and then he's in there, and then he's like, the line was something like, and I just can't go on. He's like, I can't go on without having asked Tanji, will you marry me? And I was like, okay, you can't. Yeah, I know. But I was reading it like, oh, okay, like, you can't go on that. And then but I read it as words, not like a proposal. And the next line was like, this is really a proposal. He's like, this is an actual proposal. He's like, I don't want to do it on the email, but you gave me no choice. And then the rest was like,
You took away your proposal without even
I
knowing.
sure did. It just
Oh,
shot it right in the kneecap. But it still was sweet. And then he still,
it's very sweet.
I did a whole bunch of like, well, I'm not saying yes, but if I did, like this has to be this. And then,
If I would say yes, so
yes,
but did you
you
did
can't
you
do
do
this
that?
anymore.
here are my rules. What did you do that in email or did you
No, oh
scroll?
my God, no. So I was on my way to work and I was working for 2 days, and I just remember I was working up in the bougie parts, and I just was ruining all the orders, and I was just like, oh my God. People were like, I didn't order this. I'm like, it's okay, you'll like it. Just eat it. You know, it's just, and
I
then
have a proposal in my head.
I was like, you have no idea what's going on. But then I told him, I was like, I had no idea this is what you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna ask for a buddy pass. And I was like, I think when I land, meet me at 8 o'clock, like neutral space, public, in between. I forgot about this part. So he met me, he was explaining this whole thing to me, and I just couldn't believe I've never seen this part of him. And he was like, I know you've been wondering why. He's like, he goes, honestly, it all boils down to like, just, I was scared, you know? He's like, and his parents have been together since they were 16, and his sister and her husband, everybody's been together forever. So
Together.
again, back to what we were talking about, that's what he's wanted. He wants the same thing. He's like, I've always, when I ask someone to marry me, I want it to be that, like, to know 100%. He's like, and but
Mhm.
now I do know 100%. And then I was like, I don't know, I just feel weird, like you want something or whatever. Do you need a stepmom? Did her mom die? You know? And so then
Oh my God.
he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm gonna be right back. So he leaves. We're in a bar, and he leaves, and he comes back with his Bose speaker. So he does the scene from Say Anything where he plays
Oh,
In Your Eyes. He put this song on because he knows I love that movie, and obviously I love that song. He sat there in the bar with it over his head for the whole song. And I'm just like, if you don't put it away right now. He's like, nope. I kept reaching for it, and he's like, no, no. And he just sat there. Stuff like
oh,
that is like why I was like, all right. And then we were married.
oh. That is the most. I did not know that story. That is so beautiful.
But it's so him. It is.
No, but that's the guy. That's your
I
guy. You knew.
know. I
That's
know.
beautiful.
I
You
know.
deserve that though, Tanji. I'm
I
happy for you.
mm.
So when so now here comes baby. So you guys get married. Um, and did you try right away?
Yeah, we tried before, and that was the thing. He's like, I know I told you this. He goes, but he's like, what he said, if it was up to me, you'd be half baked with a seed right now. And I was like, okay. That was part of the proposal. So, like, okay. So we did start trying right away. Again, I was maybe 39, I think, when we got married, and it just was not happening. So we tried for 6 months, and then, you know, you're in that age bracket where 6 months is like dog years. You've tried forever,
Hmm.
so then you had to see fertility specialist.
Fertility. Hmm.
So, taking meds, and then this, and then that wasn't working, and then we did, like, insemination, and that didn't work. So then we had to go into IVF, which in itself is a test on marriage. But it's just, you're
Yeah.
just like, and then it's like when you can't get pregnant, everyone around you is getting pregnant, like
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like a car.
nonstop.
It's like when you buy a car, and all of a sudden you never saw it before, but now
Nope.
you see them all over the road. That's how
Yes.
it felt like. It feels like when you're trying to get pregnant. Like
Yes.
because for me, I had miscarriages prior to my daughter Kari now, and I remember just walking around and going, "Wow, that's another pregnant belly.
Hmm.
That's another pregnant belly. That's another pregnant belly." It's hard. I mean, because obviously you're happy for them,
Yeah.
but the human response is, why can't that happen for me? It
Right.
seems to happen so easily for other people.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of them are like my age. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, so you just did this like naturally? Like, yeah. And most of them was like, it was a drunk night and so and so. I'm like,
Like, oops, I'm
yeah.
pregnant. Oh, I got pregnant. Yeah,
Oh,
and
it's
there's
so
some really
cute.
fertile people out there.
So
You're like, oh, it's
easy.
a great story.
Yeah. It just, I just remember that was just like some of the hardest times of like my life, or just kind of like, you just felt like, well, what are you good for if you can't do this? Like this, I just, it sucked so bad. And then it was, we had like my body wasn't producing, like egg follicles like it should be, and it was just like, you made an embryo, but it's abnormal, and then or
Right.
you don't have enough to even do this round. And so it took it took about it seems like it's not a lot. It took about probably 6 months for us to even have like a viable embryo,
And let's
that was
break
like
that down for
good.
people who are
Yeah.
listening who are probably in the process. When you say 6 months, how many rounds of IVF did
Oh,
you do?
so that was what our insurance requires, 3 rounds of insemination first. And with that, it's not just like boom, 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 because you're taking hormones, and it has to be, timed around your menstrual cycle, which is so hard to schedule around
Hmm.
because you don't know exactly when it's going to come. And so it's not just like 1 month, and another. You kind of have to take like a break there, and then you have this ovidral shot that you have to take in a 15-minute
The
window.
trigger shot.
It is, and it's
It's called the
insane.
trigger, right?
It's,
Is that the is
I
that
don't
called the
know,
trigger
but
shot?
that's what it is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes. And it's like, I remember being on a cruise and having like, you had to ask for a fridge, and I had it in there like a timer on that day. And I was like, I gotta go. And I was like, boink, there's times I've had to take those shots like on the plane, like, and it's like turbulent, and you're in the bathroom, just like, please don't stab, my back. But, and then so wait for that. And so when that's done, now you move into in vitro, which is even more scientific, and just like you have to go in like it's your cycle starts when your menstrual cycle happens, and then it's like
Hmm.
when you come in on this day, and then you're depending on what that test is, you're going to come in another 2 or 3 days after. And so you cannot plan for that because
Hmm.
the starting day is, and it's like based on this test
There's daily
when you have to come in,
monitoring.
everything. And it's like, huh. And then so the goal is during that is whatever hormones you're taking, it's going to just, your ovaries are going to produce as many egg follicles as possible, and then there's going to be a harvest day, and then they're going to just petri dish those bad boys. And then depending on if you're going to do um like chromosome testing or like any testing for genetic diseases. We didn't have to because they test you before. If you're a carrier of any genetic diseases, then they will test it, but we weren't. So they didn't have to test it for that. But we did do the chromosome one. Um, so yeah, the first time I did that, like my body made one follicle, and everybody else was making all, like we did like 20 something. I'm like, I got one. And so that's not enough to do an in vitro round. So that one was just, but you're like, great. Now you got to wait another cycle, and then the next cycle start. So the next one we did, I think I made 4 follicles, and then only 2 of them were fertilized, and only one made it to like to do the testing on the 6th day, and it was abnormal. So we're like, she's like, would have either miscarried or not gotten pregnant. So I was like, okay. So then the next, and she was so good. She changed up my hormones. This next one, I think I had 11 follicles. I think 4 were fertilized, but then only 2 made it to that 6th day, and I was just like, what are the chances? But they were both normal, and they were both girls. So that was already, God, we had been trying. We were I actually think it was a whole year of trying because we started trying before we were married. So anyway, so I put one in.
How did you handle that? Not to interrupt you, but
No,
emotionally, where were you there? Where were you in this?
um, so
How was
depressed,
this to take this
so
news?
depressed. And before that, before he and I had gotten back together, I was already like at like a depressed state, like just up and downs with that and stuff with work. So I had already been on antidepressants, which you cannot take while you're trying to get
While you're
pregnant.
doing
So
this,
it's just
yeah.
like, just very, just a whole lot of Eeyore.
Yeah.
You're just looking
Well,
like
you're starting
Eeyore
at
on the
zero,
house.
right?
Yes,
Because
and
that's a
now
lot.
it's not only whatever you were depressed about before, it's just like now I'm depressed and like my body sucks. Like I can't
And
do
you're
the basic
hormonal.
woman function. Oh my God. Like
Yeah. But going
everything.
back to, I didn't mean that's key
No,
what you just
no.
said. The fact that I can't do what I'm
Right,
supposed to do,
right,
quote unquote.
right.
The
Which is,
pressure
yeah. And it's just like, it's
as a
just
woman.
with,
Yeah.
oh, and again, while you're watching everyone else do it.
Right.
Um,
But you got
but
her.
I got her. I only put one in
Yeah.
because I was thinking, if my oven's overcooking or something, I don't want to ruin both of them. So we'll just put one
Right.
in. And it was like, everything happened the way it should. It was the easiest pregnancy. It just was like, everything was good about it. So, that's how it was supposed to be. And, you know,
And what's her name? Tell them.
Ilani,
Milani. And how
yeah,
old is she now?
4. She just turned 4 in October.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the reason why, why I think it's important to talk about the journey to baby, especially through IVF, is that there's this feeling of a lot of older moms that I've met that have gone the same route of, man, not only was I older when I started this journey, I went through lots of money and
Yes. Oh my
time
God.
and
Money.
emotion to go about having this child in this way with IVF. And then the guilt that you feel when you all of a sudden realize that it's not all rainbows and unicorns, right?
That's why I
Because you're
started
like,
asking for a refund.
yeah, yeah, you're like,
It's like, where do I get a refund?
yeah. And that was one of the quotes I posted it actually on the page without your name at the time because I wanted them to hear it from you because I thought that was such a good way of putting it. Of I just can I just like exchange. Maybe I don't want to do this. I think
Yeah.
again that's an example as to why I find you just so refreshing is that it's very difficult to admit that.
Yes.
And and it's not that you love your kid any less. I'm
Oh,
sure you
yeah.
love her very much. She's your
Loved
world.
her. I paid for
Look,
her.
yeah, and look, you did. You went
Absolutely.
through so much to get
Yeah.
her. Looking at the path of even having your this wonderful man in your life and wanting that relationship to work and seeing this future with him and going through all of this to get her here.
Yeah.
Of course you love her,
Yeah.
but that all of that does not make every day about unicorns and rainbows and
No.
that everything is perfect. It's hard. It's
It's
hard work.
super
And
very hard.
how was coming down from the high? Like, when did that happen? Like, you have this high of, we're pregnant, going through this easy pregnancy. Here she is in my arms. What was that first night like?
It legit day 1 is when it's over because you're just so cute and pregnant. Everybody loves pregnant people. You don't have to worry
Mhm.
about anything because she's fed and watered in your stomach. You've got 2 hands to do whatever you want, whenever and whenever you sleep, whenever you want. And it's just day 1. It's just like your life ends day 1 and your life as someone else's uh whole life system. You're
Life
just now,
source.
yeah,
Yeah.
you are just now for that person. You exist for that person. And it was, she slept pretty good. My I had my mom and my mother-in-law and my aunt, who's basically my second mom. Everybody was there. Billy was there the whole time. Everybody stayed with me. So they helped me, but it's funny, you think they're gonna help, but them old ladies forgot how to do it. So they were like, the diaper sliding off, and they're like, and I'm just like, why are you here? It's so
But
funny.
that's another thing too that I found
Yeah.
is that, well, for me, and when Maria was born was January 2020, so at the height of
Oh,
lockdown with the
yes.
pandemic, so there was no help. no one could come down. My parents didn't even meet her until October.
Oh
So
my
we were
God,
pretty much in
yeah.
this isolated state raising her. But my husband has two kids who are 21 and 20 and same age. And even for him, I was looking at him going, well, at least I have this expert that is with me. And yes, there were some things that he could definitely pull from his experience of being a parent 20 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
for him, it was like brand new too, to a degree. So
Right.
the thing about I found, and I've heard from other people who had kids later, is that your team, your tribe, your
Yeah.
parents are, they also don't have the same energy that you do to help you,
No.
right? Because grandma is much older now. It's
Yes.
like Tanji, and I don't know about you, but I had a grandmother who was like years, every decade was, when are you going to have this kid? Drop this
Yes.
kid up in my lap. I will
Yes.
take care. I will help you.
Yes.
And as I saw her aging, I was just like, there goes another person in my support team that
Yes.
will not be able to help me with this kid,
Hands don't work. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they, oh, bless them. But they were just so good about like, here, I'm gonna go to sleep. So, and that's really, I mean, I will take it. But you know what was um very hard, which you don't imagine is gonna be hard, was breastfeeding because everyone is just so like, which is true. Like, it is the best thing for the baby. You do it, and you just, if you're bitches, if you're doing it right, it doesn't hurt. You know what?
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, if I could find all those people, round them up. And it's so the guilt that I felt because it was not working. And when they tell you like she's gonna lose weight and she lost a whole pound and like, okay, well, we're gonna have to start pumping and this and that. I mean, you're like, no, I can do it, I can do it. Like, I've watched all the videos, I've read all the books and stuff, and it's just like when it doesn't work, you once again feel like I cannot do this other thing that my body is built to
Here's
do.
one more thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I suck at this also. And I just remember bawling, like just bawling. And I hated it because people were like, you gotta keep doing it. And like, I don't gotta do anything. Like, my nipples are just chapped beyond belief. I was just walking around. I can't put a shirt on because nothing, every single thing, I'm at my,
Do you remember, did anyone ever tell you about this whole cabbage thing that's supposed to make you feel better? Did you try that?
like the frozen.
Yeah, well,
Yes,
someone told me like leaves or cabbage
yes,
leaves.
everything,
Did
girl,
that work for
everything.
you?
No, 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 no. So it just nothing. And it really was. It just wasn't our time. We weren't vibing. Like later on, and I tell this to people all the time, whether they want to hear it or not. I was like, if you can't breastfeed right out the gate, don't worry about it. You know, and I remember pumping, and then pumping, like just 24 hours a day pumping, which is like, okay, you pump, and after you're sitting there pumping, you feed her. And after that, you clean everything. And then you put it away. And then you can sleep maybe half hour, 45 minutes before you have to get up and pump again. And it was like miserable,
Yeah.
miserable, miserable. If postpartum, that was my height of postpartum, was that. And
Well, now, how did you identify? Because for me, I had definitely anxiety throughout the whole
oh,
pregnancy, especially starting with miscarriages prior. I just, and the age, and being a
yeah,
Black woman and hearing about mortality rates and, going through pregnancy, I definitely felt like I had anxiety, a lot of anxiety. I still
yeah.
kind of deal with that from time to time when it comes to being a parent. But how did you recognize that this is postpartum depression?
Oh,
Did
I
you see
just
something?
didn't. I,
Yeah,
I, again, looking back, I just thought I sucked. I just thought I just suck. I just came out being like, I'm gonna be the best. I'm so prepared for this, and then I just was
I'm
like,
older, have all this
yes,
wisdom.
I know all the stuff, and I just suck.
I know everything. Yeah,
But it was like, uh, you just have to accept it at some point. When I was like, okay, I still can feed her. My body still produces milk. It's just not, directly. And what was her name? Patricia, this God sent lactation consultant. Um, and went to see her in Brooklyn. It was Wild was Mama, but it's something else now. Anyway, this woman, seriously, like, she's like, just do this. And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, I remember cried that day because I was just in the room and it was a whole circle. It was very tribal, which I loved it because you could hear everybody else's questions and you're like, oh my God, we all suck. It's not just me, you know? And then from that day on, I was breastfeeding Ilani. Like, didn't carry any pumps, didn't carry anything, and just was like, and to me, and she's like, she's a little tongue tied, but I feel really bad about just like, I don't know, cutting it because like, am I making my
Yeah,
life easier by cutting her? Like, I just feel like I'm circumcising her where she doesn't need circumcised. But really, I feel like her mouth just needed to get a little bit bigger, before she can, and then
that
you just learn like how to hamburger your boobs so like angles like back in there, and it just was like, man, like it just life got so much easier after that. Just like,
it's amazing when you find the right resources.
yes,
But to
yes,
ask for help, that's the thing,
yes,
is like a lot of us
yes,
don't know how to ask. And I find, a lot of times I talk about, the wisdom that we have when we're this age and having children. But there's also stubbornness, I think, within
yes.
some of us,
Like, I can
because
do this by myself.
I can do this because I've done this or so much by myself all this
Yes,
time.
yeah.
And then to realize, to feel the moment, I remember the moment I felt like I know so much and I know nothing,
Mm-hmm.
was literally those two ideas came together in having Marie. Like, I don't know everything, but now I'm finding that there are some aspects of being older that are helping me with
Yes,
her right now in terms of patience. I feel
yes.
sometimes I pick my battles very well. I'm
Yeah,
like,
oh my God, yes.
this is not going to be a thing for me.
Yeah.
You broke all your crayons and it's all into the carpet. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to like that stain there, but it's not,
No.
I feel like if that had happened when I was younger, I would have been like, oh my, the new carpet. No, no, no. Not that it
Yeah,
doesn't bother you. I just pick my battles just a
for
little
sure.
differently, I think, because of
Yes.
of where I am in my life now. And also, I don't have the energy to
I
fight
was
everything
just
either,
gonna say that. And plus,
right?
I was like, you just can't, physically
I,
cannot. Just,
yeah, I'm just tired. So that's it.
yes.
But
Yes.
in term, I wanted to go back to you knowing that you had postpartum depression, and then how did your journey of healing and working through that, how did that start?
Um, um, really, it's just like you said, like, not just picking your battles, but just like recognizing like what is a battle and what is not a battle. And it would be, you'd look around and you'd feel like, I'd be like, I have done, I know I've done something today. I know besides her, I know I've done stuff around the house, but there's no telling because you would clean the house, then it's a mess right away, or clean the kitchen, and then it's a mess, right away. And it's just because you're constantly, like I said, especially like with breast pump stuff. But just being, you know what, and at a certain point, I was like, all right, if the house is a mess, the house is a mess. Like, the baby is fed, she's taken care of. That's what I'm here for. Like, for a good year, like, we'll just make sure this is. But I will say, Billy, is a phenomenal father, like, and husband. But I, it got to a point where when the pumping part was happening, I would pump, he would feed her while I slept. And then we just got into a cycle. And mind you, again, he's a fireman. Like, he works 24 hours. He didn't sleep, and he still would do it just because he would see me and be like, you can't do this, on your own. And I remember thinking, like, thank God for that guy, because he really lives to make my life easier. And I see things that he does, but then is just like, diapers. He's like, I got it. This, I'll feed her. I got it. He would get to the point where he'd have breast milk in his pocket, like a pouch in his pocket, and that's how he would warm it. He's like, warming it in my pocket. And then, traveling, like, I he's way better than I am. But
Wow.
I think because he doesn't have that stigma of being like the perfect mom and doing this and wife at the same time. He's just, very like, this is what's got to be done and we're going to do it and that's that, you know. But he was
That's
helpful.
great.
Um, I had I had joined, it was like a Facebook group for the neighborhood, like for the moms. We were in Bushwick at the time. So it was like Bushwick
Mhm.
moms or something. And there were like meetups every now and then. And then you again see like you think that's just you and you'd be like, oh wow, it's like you're having the same problems or this and that. But sometimes they piss me off too. But like, oh, we're working on the house. I'm like, how do you have a house in Bushwick? Like how did you afford that at the same time? But
You're like,
tangent.
I digress.
I
I digress.
hate you. But yeah. Oh well, your baby's not doing this yet, huh? Um, and then just just enjoying her. Like it got to the point where you're just doing so much. Uh, you want to do this, and you want to do that, and you want to do this. There's no time to enjoy her. So I just was like, I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna be with her. Breastfeed. I nap when like I have a baby stains on my shirt. I'm gonna nap whenever. It's just me and her, and that's it. And it's just like everything else, falls wayside. Like that helps a lot. Crying in the shower every day, that helps also. Uh, and that was that. And I remember it was after like the tail and no, I was gonna say I wanted to go back on like antidepressants, whichever, like that I could possibly do with her, but I still was breastfeeding, so I just was like, oh, again, you're just worried about everything as an older mom. So it wasn't until during COVID, was like, okay, this is like a dark spot,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And I
Too
remember
much.
then, yeah, I finally was like, I gotta get back on it. Like I tried, like the gym, like things like that. No, I was like, I need to be medicated. So let's have it. And getting in touch with someone who like could see you, because nobody was taking anybody there. It was just horrible. Um, but that I finally had to get back on medication.
No, I
And
mean,
that
it's
has
just a
helped.
lot. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, being a mom and the mental health issues and in our current state of the world, it's just, it's
A
a
lot.
lot.
It's a
It's a
lot.
lot. And so it makes sense to at least reach out to someone to see if medication can be something that will help
Hmm.
stabilize you in the face of all the things that you have to kind of sort through every day.
Yeah.
Because we work a lot of, I mean, you're not a stay at home, but because
Oh.
you're working, and even stay at home moms, I'm stay at home and I feel like I'm still clocking in. I mean, some
You
crazy
are.
hours. I
You
think
never
I work
clock
more
out.
in, I'm constantly clocked in.
There's no clocking
And
out.
yeah, and I remember feeling, oh, as a stay at home mom, this will be, I didn't think it'd be easy, but I felt like I'd have all this time to provide what I wanted to my kid. Yes, but I didn't account for the time during the day to replenish myself
Yes.
in order to give that to her.
Yes.
That part I didn't even factor in.
Yeah.
And that in itself makes a 24-hour day feel like 36.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and it was, take someone to be like, you have to do at least one thing for yourself every day, like whatever it is, even if it's just like quiet, like 15 minutes of reading or going for a walk, and that too, once you fall into the routine of it, it's a lot easier. And I would say that was about 8 weeks, like an 8 week mark, where it was like
Hmm.
breastfeeding was where it should be. We'd have a routine. We're gonna go on a walk this day, and I know she's gonna sleep at this time, and it was just that really really helps. And then learning to wear her while I clean the house,
Hmm.
I was like, oh, this makes it easy.
Yeah,
So
now I can be productive because I
so
think when
that's
you,
yes,
because for you, and I think you're the same type of personality, is like we really are, we're people who really like to be productive and get
yeah.
things done, and
I just
that's
feel
part of our
useful.
identity. Yeah, and that's it does.
Yeah.
It feels like also semblance of your old life,
Yes.
right?
And that
That
too.
you're trying to hold on to.
I remember I took a year off. I took a year maternal leave, but I went back. I was like, I can't. I was like, I have to have adult conversations,
Mhm.
and not always. And I would say the day I was like, I gotta go back. I remember holding groceries in my arm like this and bouncing it. And I was like, this is my life. Like I automatically feel like weight in my arm and I'm doing this. So I was like, that I gotta go. So I remember, I think 7 months. I think I was only out 7 months, and I was like, I'm coming back. And that was it. It was exactly that, like having, you know, a, a piece of who I am, other than I love being a mom, but I have more to offer than just
Right.
being a mom. And so just
Not only that
going
too,
to
is that
work.
you've had a long time being someone else, like someone else prior to being a mom.
Yes.
Being an older mom, you had like at least let's say from 20, right, to 40. So you've
Uh-huh.
had 20 years of a life that did not include anyone really
Mm-hmm.
but yourself and maybe an occasional partner or not. And now it's like there's another human being. So
Yeah.
sometimes I found it's like letting go of those 20 years of
Yes.
who I was.
Yes.
And I've had a long time to kind of get to know and love who Victoria was prior to having a kid. It took me a long
Yeah.
time to even get to that point of fully being in my skin. And then, yay, I've arrived. Oh, and now it's not even about me. It's about someone
Yes,
else,
and it is that
right?
you asked for it. It's
Right.
like all of that. I kept thinking like she did not. You know what? A pilot said this to me like did last year, and he was like, "You're talking about having kids." And he's like, "You realize it's like the most selfish thing you've done." And then I was like, "Why do you say that? Like being a parent?" He's like, "They didn't ask for this." He's like, "You can't. Like, when you're saying like."
Hmm.
I did this and this for you. And he's like, no, you didn't. And he's like, they didn't ask for this. He's like, you did. He's like, we decided to make this life, And it's like, you didn't have to. And I was like, oh my God, like it was just so true. And it's like, so I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing this because this is what I wanted to do. And then I kind of was just like, so let's just do it. Like this is what we signed up for. We
Right.
didn't know, but it's like it was like a
I'm here.
marriage. It was,
I'm here.
like
Yeah.
until death do us part. It was like,
That's right.
you're just gonna rock the whole thing. So I was like, let's do it. But I, I remember that like that's not her, it's me. This is what we're gonna do. We just have to do it to the best of our ability. But that's who you are now. It's like I'm not, you know, awesome Tanj doing all this like single. It's like, okay, this is the day where you start, Tanji as me and a mom. And how do you blend the two? Mom, wife, whatever I'm doing at work. So
Is there anything that you wish you had known prior?
excuse me. Um, I want to say I wish I knew how hard it was going to be. Everyone tells you that, but until you actually experience it yourself, you just don't know. You have no idea. Um, no, I would say
No, you
no.
don't
There,
have to have anything, but I think I asked that question only because sometimes a lot of, I know I've looked back and I'm like, is there anything I could have done to make this easier
oh, for
right now? I
sure.
don't think so. But I don't, well, you mean the question comes up, but then
Yeah,
usually I can't find the answer. There's not really, it's just me trying to control the time, that moment of like,
yeah,
I got to make this better for myself. But I don't think there's anything I think if there's one thing I think I would have wanted to know prior to having my daughter is I think it's more of I don't think people understand how it depends on your job, but maternity leave and like what does that mean in terms of time with your kid like how much time can I really have like for me
yeah,
because I I started feeling like a pressure to get her prepared for me to leave her right away.
yes,
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I gotta find a daycare. Um, how many bags of milk do I need to pump and have, like, when I'm not gone, or when I'm gone and I'm not here, like, how am I supposed to make sure that she still wants me when I come
Mhm.
home and she's not
Yeah.
into the bottle? Um, and I mean, there's nothing I could really have done differently now, but I feel like I was a little ignorant, I think, of the concept. That's why I ended up. I mean, this part we may not have in the recording, but that's how I ended up not coming back to work,
Mhm.
because I just didn't feel like I had done enough to prepare her for me to go back to work.
Mhm.
I don't know why I wasn't as prepared, but and then I was looking at the freezer, and going, I have 10 like sacks. Oh,
Mhm.
you gave me those pouches actually. I have this much of milk.
Ah! I love
I
those
loved
things.
it, but I loved it. The kind.
Yes.
I had
Oh.
like 10. I had 10 bags, and I was like, uh, my maternity leave. I think it's over in 2 weeks. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way. And then I put this pressure on myself because I had stopped lactating very much, or a lot, and I was like taking all these like teas and pills. I'm like, I
Yes.
gotta pump. And I put this pressure on me and that on myself, and that made me cry because I was like, I
Yeah.
did not prepare. So I guess, and then all the options came out for us to take different types of leaves, and then when retirement came, I said, I'm taking it. I'm
Yeah.
just taking it. Not saying there are other reasons why I didn't
Yeah, for sure.
take retirement, because I
Yeah.
could produce milk. I just didn't. I just started feeling like I didn't want to be away from her, and then I could
Yes.
because of Desi's schedule and Desi's job being home too. That's really why.
Yeah.
Um, but going back, let's put this back into what will be on tape. Yeah, I think a lot of times you don't have. But you can look back and say, oh, I wish I had known something. Maybe that would have made it easier. But often, I don't think it would have made a difference.
Not
It's
if it
just
if
you
it
learn on. It's all hands on.
yes,
All
exactly.
hands.
That's why it's like there's nothing you those things you learn as you go. Um like that, you know how we have that great group, for the moms at
Hmm.
work. And I think that also another godsend. Patricia, the lactation consultant, and that group. We're like,
So what she's talking about is in our with our employer, or my former employer, her current. They're a group of moms that put together a group on Facebook where you can ask like any question.
dude,
It's like having a tribe. And when
it
going back
is.
to like ancient times when it came to women having kids anyway, the tribe, the women
Yeah,
came, and the community of women around the pregnant person was strong. This is something that we used to do, back
yeah,
in the day. And this is what that tribe, having that, I think, provides people who are having babies and or have children. And so she's talking about that group and how
yes.
helpful it was
The
for her.
as far as yeah, because that's all hands on because you don't know what you need help with until you need help with it. But if for beforehand, if there's anything like I wish that I would have known, I think I wish that I would have known ahead of time that it was okay to quote unquote fail, or to suck. It's okay. It's just like you'll you'll find what works for you. And it's like it's not that you're not a good mom. It's like this one tactic doesn't work. Try this. It's
Hmm.
the same thing with breastfeeding. If breastfeeding is not going right for you, do something else. It's just feed the baby. That's what they always say. The first thing in breastfeeding is make sure the baby's fed. It's like, and then all the other guilt. But
Hmm.
stuff like that, if she's not sleeping at this time, or if she keeps pooping all over your walls because you're just not catching it in time, that's okay. Just clean,
It's okay.
change your
I'll
diaper,
paint it.
clean
I'll
the
paint the wall.
baby.
I'll
It's
be.
like, and it's that there's not one size fits all for motherhood, which, you know, you just think like, if what is this is the best thing for the baby. This is what I have to do. And if I can't do this, like I'm no good. And it's just not that at all. It's just do your own thing.
Do
Whatever
your own
works for
thing.
you works for you. And again, it's that. It's like you cannot you can't be there for this baby if you're just not there for yourself. You know, you cannot provide for her if you can't provide for yourself. If you're not whole, you cannot, you know, you cannot
Put your
take
mask
care of
on
this.
first, right? Put your mask on first before helping others.
Yes, exactly. And it's like that alone, just it's okay. It's okay to suck. It's okay to suck. That's,
Okay, this stuff.
yes.
How do you think, Tanji, you are rocking it as a mom? As a
Now,
mom, an older mom person?
um, just kind of like I said before, I when she's throwing F-bombs everywhere, I don't really think I'm rocking it. But she's just funny, you know, just enjoying her. Like I do enjoy her and um just kind of let her be like the person she's gonna be and just, you know, I think again, having a lot of time for myself or having like such such a good partner really helps it. So it's like I'm not, but I think together like we are, you know, where I'm slacking off, he picks it up, and where he can't do, I do, you know, and we just know like where to tag each other in, like, you know, like
Mhm.
wrestling. So I think just having a great partner, and we have, I would like to say a support system is great, but it's like all my family's in California, all his family is in Orlando, but like close to us, like my neighbor behind us, her daughter is in the same class as Ailani, and she's awesome. She's a nurse. Her Ailani's godparents are like a mile away. It's just having that, but it really is just having that time to just do what I do, you know, as well as be a mom. I just not base my whole life around that kid.
No, because you're a person first.
Yeah.
Research for our talk, I
Hmm.
found that there were a lot more younger moms talking about postpartum depression on their social media feeds as opposed to older moms. I could not, literally, the only post that I found easily was about someone who wanted to support their daughter who was 42 and was going through postpartum. It
Hmm.
was the mom who reached out. And of the social media accounts that I saw of older women talking about it, it was basically like, you've got this, don't worry, but not really talking about themselves.
Right,
Do you
right.
think that that comes from some type of embarrassment or hesitancy to talk about them being postpartum because of their age, as if you should just be lucky you have a kid and not complain?
Um, you know, I don't know, but it's just like a hard part. One of the hardest parts about this whole thing is social media, right?
Mhm.
Because part of it is that you're looking at other people and you're like, oh, this person's so awesome. Look at this person is in Belize or fucking Mexico with their baby and they, you know, they're skinny again. And it's like, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Just, you know, it's like I think for number one, what I would say to anybody when they're talking about postpartum or before they even have a baby, stay off social media unless it's
Yeah,
directly related, like, you know, like that mom group. Don't scroll because everybody's just posting like
they're posting the
the
rainbows.
key, right? And it's so not true. It's just not true. No matter how much you think they're killing it, they're killing themselves. So one, stay off of social media. Um, but do you gotta talk? You know, just talking to someone. I think maybe I don't know. I feel like women I've spoken to are just very candid about postpartum, you know, or what they're going through, but not really recognizing that it's postpartum. You know, they're just
Hmm.
thinking you're just having a hard time. It's like, no, that's a thing. It's a thing. You
Hmm.
know, just you have to talk to someone about it. If not other moms, then a professional, you know, and you might not have to be medicated. It just, you know, your diet. There's so many things you could you could solve by changing up your diet that you have no clue about. But it's just, you know, this might be affecting you in this way now. Your hormones are different. But, you know, maybe your red meat, cut out the red meat, or cut out some dairy, you're good to go. But just that, a nutritionist and a therapist and stay
Right.
off social media.
And stay off social media.
Just to
Angie,
and not compare yourself.
right.
Mm,
Thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for agreeing to be part of this episode. And just the important thing I think Tanji and I are saying is you're not alone. Social
No,
media is
no.
going to make you think that you are, but there are resources out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll
Oh.
see you next week. Thanks, Tanji.